recording, and I'm going to use the live transcript feature as well. Okay, let's see how it goes. There it is. It's working. All right. Leslie, Amara, thank you so much for popping in to our little review session. Like I mentioned before, I'm here mainly to answer any questions that you have. So we've got our first essay due on Friday. How is it going so far? How's the paper writing going for you, Amara?
So far, it's going so far. Do you know when we get back reviews or when we get back like some info or I like to say feedback. There we go, feedback.
Yeah, well, ideally, your classmates provided a classmate provided you feedback in the peer review last week. But if they didn't, even if they did, I'd be happy to provide it for you. So just send me an email. I mean, would you like me to look at it?
Yes, please.
Okay, then you don't have to worry about sending me the email. But in general, that's the process, right? If you would like me to provide comments on any of your drafts, just send me a simple request by email, and I'll make sure to get it done. Okay. So Imara, I'll make sure to look at your rough draft. Imara, did a peer reviewer respond to your paper?
I wouldn't know how to check that. Um, I
I will
know.
send out the announcement then again about how to do that. Sorry, I cut you off. You were saying?
I know how to do the peer review because
Right.
I checked the steps how to do that, but I don't know how to check if somebody did that.
You should be able to follow the same exact steps, and it should allow you to see the comments from the peer review. Uh, yeah, by following those same exact steps. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Have you tried doing that?
No, I thought like I some notification would appear saying that somebody did the peer review for me.
Doesn't that stink that it doesn't do that? Yeah, I wish that it would do that too. I think I assumed that Canvas was providing you all with a notification when a classmate had finished reviewing your document, um, your essay, or even when I've done it. When I've provided you with feedback. I think. Do you all get notifications when you get a grade for an assignment?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's only for a grade, that's where there's like a loophole in this situation. You're not getting graded on the peer review, right? You're getting feedback. You're not getting graded when I look at your rough draft. You're just getting feedback. So I will, Amara, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I will make sure to send a reminder to everyone about how to access their peer review comments. Of course, I cannot force your classmates to provide you with the peer review, even if it's been assigned. But that's where I come in, right? I can always take a look at your rough draft and provide you with some commentary on it. Okay. Great. Other questions about the first paper that's due? Now, Amara, I was asking you how it was going for you. Leslie, how's it going for you? How's the writing process?
It's going pretty good. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I'm almost done. I did have a question though. For the body paragraphs, how would you quote the objective description?
So in your case, and by you, I mean all of you, right? We're writing about murals, right? So uh, it's not like when we were reading House on Mango Street and you would provide a quote and then you would do a parenthetical citation with the page number, right? Um, MLA is meant to just make things organized. As long as you are being clear with which mural you are examining in your paragraph, you do not need to put in a parenthetical citation for that. Okay. Does that
Um,
make sense, Leslie?
yeah, because what I was doing was that since we have to put our mural there too,
Mm-hmm.
and I was gonna cite it as like figure one, like MLA, and then on my paragraph I would like be talking about it and in parentheses be like figure one, so that they would know.
You're asking a great question now that you mention it. I will look into that. I don't even know the answer off the top of my head. Um, what I will say, I remember that you should do what you're actually saying, right? Which is when you're referring to details in an illustration, you should cite the figure or refer to the figure directly in the body of the paragraph, okay? But I will look into our MLA guide to see what specific guidance they provide, okay? I need to refresh my memory on that. I certainly think that it doesn't hurt for you to conclude your objective description with a parenthetical citation. And in that parenthetical citation, you include the figure number that you are looking at, right? So if it's one of the works by Diego Rivera, you put the title, you put the figure number that correlates to that particular work, okay? And you will need to include 2 illustrations, right? One for each of the murals that you are examining. The one from Los Tres Grandes, and then the other one that's a more contemporary mural, okay? So I'm gonna make a note here about citing figures, okay? And honestly, if we have time, I know that I created that page with screenshots of how to incorporate illustrations into your paper. So we can take a look at that. That's a small, in my mind, that's a little bit of a smaller issue. Remember, your MLA grade is worth 5%. So it is important, but it's not something, like if you were to include the mural illustration and you were to include the figure with the caption description, you're going to get the majority of the credit, right? What I want to do is clarify whether you need a citation or not. Now, let's say you were quoting Schiffer Goldman's article or Rafael Perez Torres's article. You need to do the standard quote, close quote, parentheses, and then the author's last name and the page number, okay? Remember, those are works in an anthology. So when you quote one of those 2 works, which you are required to do for this paper, you are going to need to include that in your works cited. And that page that I might as well go there now, since I'm mentioning it so frequently to you. That page does remind you of, it shows you where in the MLA guide you can get those questions answered. All right, so here we are. MLA walkthrough, illustrations, citing works from an anthology. You can see the example of the illustration. One thing I want to point out here, notice the illustration is probably about 1/4 of the page, okay? It is not half the page or the whole page, okay? And remember that the illustrations don't count towards the 5-page requirement, okay? So by the time, everything is said and done, the paper that you submit is probably going to be at minimum 6 pages long, or 5.5 to 5 3/4 pages long. 5 pages of writing, and then about, half of a page or so taken up with the illustration and the caption, okay? Let's see what the writer did here. The illustration is positioned close to the text to which it relates. Usually, the illustration is either before the paragraph about which it's being written about, or it's after it, okay? One or the other. This is a weird setup here because this paragraph began on the previous page, and they have chosen to begin the page with the illustration. So their illustration is literally cutting the paragraph in half. Under normal circumstances, I don't recommend it, okay? Just put it either before the paragraph or after the paragraph.
I have a question.
Yes. Is that Kimberly?
So, yes.
Great.
So it's necessary to include the pictures?
Yes.
Or
the requirement to include the illustrations.
Okay.
So, because I need to see which mural, I need to see the murals that you're looking at. And as we've experienced, with the first few weeks of discussion board, there are tons of details in these murals, right? And it would not be an effective use of writing space for you to describe every single detail. Not all of the details are going to matter to the argument that you're making. So that's where an illustration comes in, right? You will give a general summary of what's going on in the mural, but you're not going to speak about every single detail, okay? You're going to focus on the details that matter to the point you are trying to make in your paragraph. So you will need to include an illustration for each of the murals that you're looking at, and you're only looking at 2 in this paper.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, let's see what it says about citing the illustration. So illustrations positioned close to the text to which it relates, with figure, number, caption, and parenthetical documentation. Okay, and it doesn't show us the body paragraph, at least not in the screenshot that I took, what it looks like. All right, so that's what I'm going to have to look into. When you're writing a body paragraph, how do you refer to the illustrated, the figure? All right, Leslie, I'll make sure to look into that and get back to you all. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Other questions about MLA formatting or about analyzing these
question.
murals? Yeah, Sandra, go for it.
So you know how when it comes to adding your support of your objective descriptions, and you know how you have to have context, which you can use encyclopedias, we would have. I'm not sure. You said that we're supposed to cite them for this paper.
Don't cite encyclopedia. Yeah, that's okay. For my class, I categorize that as a form of common knowledge. It's very broad in historical information. If you are getting historical details from either Schifra Goldman's article or Rafael Perez Torres's article, that needs to be quoted. Okay.
Okay.
Because that information is much more detailed than you would get in an encyclopedia entry. Okay.
Okay.
You know,
What happens if it was like?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What happens if it was like, let's say a mural was describing about a particular war that happened, and for that context, let's say you know how like for the Cerritos library, they have databases where you can have like scholarly sources, right?
Right. Well, there's scholarly sources, but there are also encyclopedias that it has too. Yeah.
Yeah. So we wouldn't be able to cite those.
So let's say there was a particular moment in one of the murals. Like let's say one of Orozco's murals was looking at something from the Mexican Revolution, right?
Yeah.
Or actually, I believe one of his murals in the National Palace Museum is of Father Hidalgo doing the Grito de Dolores, right? That's a particular historical moment. If you were to give a little context, like who's Father Hidalgo, what's the Grito, you know, that's encyclopedia. You don't need a scholar for that, right? But if you were trying to go much deeper into his training as a priest and how his knowledge of Catholicism has somehow shaped the way Orozco has depicted him, right? Now we're getting super detailed with how the history connects to the art, okay? So if it's super detailed, you need a scholarly source. If it's just a broad overview to bring us all up to speed so we all know, well what is, you know, the revolution? What is the Grito de Dolores, right? Then, you know, a encyclopedia is perfectly good for that. Okay.
Okay, then. I just wanted to clear on that because I wasn't sure if we were supposed to cite like those encyclopedias or not. Because I know for the discussions we did.
Right. Well, that's because I wanted everyone to know, look at all the encyclopedias we have available to us, right? These are, you guys don't have to know everything. I mean, I think that was something I suffered from throughout graduate school, was feeling like, you know, I had to know everything that everyone was talking about. And if I didn't, then I would shut up and I'd feel just stupid all by myself, right? And it's like, no, you know, go look up the information. These are good resources here. You don't have to know it. But once you learn something, share with others. How did you learn about this? What's a good resource for it, right?
Yeah.
So if it's super detailed knowledge, you use the expert, you cite the expert. If it's just broad information, right? Like what year was this? Who did it involve? Use the encyclopedia. You don't need to cite that, okay? I mean, just imagine that I'm there with you and I'm trying to learn about what you know. And if I ask you, did you get this from an encyclopedia? And the answer is yes, then don't cite it. But if it's like, what scholar did you use for this information here for this particular critique? You would need to cite that. Okay. All right, Cassandra, great question. Other questions about formatting stuff, nuts and bolts of putting this essay together? I'm gonna check the chat really quick. I don't see anything in there. All right, so here's my concern, okay? This is a comparative analysis essay, right? And I posted a voice thread, I think it was in week 4, that was all about, there are 2 different ways that you can structure this paper, okay? You can use point by point, or you can use subject by subject. I want to make sure that all of you know your grade, a big portion of the grade for this paper, the body grade, right, for this paper is going to be based on which way did you choose to organize the essay. Did you use point by point, or did you go subject by subject? I do, for the paper only being 5 pages, strategically, it doesn't matter which one you use. It's up to you. It's the one that you feel organizes things the best. If it were a longer paper, the situation would be different. Let's see. I'll remind you, there it is. Week 4, structuring the body, comparative analysis. If you have not taken a look at this voice thread, where is it at? Jumped me down, I apologize. Here we go. This is in the week 4 module. It's called Voice Thread Comparative Analysis Essay Structure. Please make sure that you have reviewed this and that you understand you have 2 options here. You can either organize it point by point, meaning you make 1 point about both murals in each paragraph, and then you go on to a new point in the next paragraph, and you always talk about both murals in each paragraph. Or subject by subject. You make all your points about mural A. That's the first part of the paper. Then you make all your points about mural B. And that's the second part of the paper, okay? So this voice thread here walks you through those 2 different options. And I believe that I even share with you an example of a student paper. Let's see if that is in this slide here. I talked you through it. I wonder if I put it in the module. Here. So I provided you with 2 different examples. One is a paper that was written in the point by point form, and the other is the subject by subject. Let's see, what's the point by point one? I know one of these papers is analyzing Sandra Cisneros' short stories, so you might be curious to see how we characterize that. I know this is Sherman Alexie's, so it must be the subject by subject. All right, nonetheless, I wanted to share with you these resources. Check out that voice thread on structuring the comparative analysis. Make sure that you have chosen a clear structure for yours, whether it's point by point or subject by subject. Then take a look at these examples that I have here in the week 4 module right below the voice thread. One is point by point, the other is subject by subject, okay? When you're doing any kind of a comparative analysis, the most important thing is consistency. You talk about one element in one mural, you got to talk about it in the other mural. You don't have to make the same claim about each element, but it's got to be, there's got to be something common that unites it, right? If you want to look at indigenismo in both murals, great. How do they represent what it means to be indigenous in mural A? How is it represented in mural B? Okay. If you want to talk about the Chicano movement, right? How is it represented in the first mural? How is it represented in the second mural, right? So that's the main thing when it comes to a comparative analysis, that you are consistent, okay? You will get a good grade on this paper if you follow my structures for the paragraphs, intros, context, problem, and response. You guys all know that. We've had practice with it. And this is just more practice. Remember, if you don't like your grade, you can always redo it, okay? If you need a little bit more time and you can't turn it in on Friday, okay, take a little bit more time, okay? So the most important thing is that you all grow, all right? And you're only gonna grow by getting practice. You've got to see what can you do. You get feedback from me, and then we make it better, all right? That's how you keep improving on it. So I know it's new that we're looking at visual rhetoric this semester. We're looking at pictures and we're trying to interpret arguments from those pictures, but you guys will adjust and you'll excel just like you did last semester, okay? Yeah, Cassandra, do you have a question?
Yeah, like you just said about the late submission policy.
Yeah.
In the syllabus. Are there any certain conditions that follows with the late policy?
Well, I know, so last semester, the way that I organized it, we had a midterm, right?
Mhm.
And it was basically everything that was assigned before the midterm, you needed to submit it. You had up until 1 week after the midterm to get it.
Yeah, I remember like
We don't
yeah.
we don't have a midterm in like we did in the fall. Okay, we have 3 major papers.
Uh-huh.
So that late
Oh, okay.
submission period is a little trickier because it's not as symmetrical. It's not like 2 writing assignments in the first part, 2 in the second. I have 3 major writing assignments here. So
Yeah.
I will make sure to tell you all when is like the last day to turn in those late submissions. Okay. But it'll probably be the end of spring break. Okay.
Oh, and you said that that if we need that little extra, let's say 2 days or something like that, just to kind of like fully see that everything is perfect in the essay and the structure of it, is that okay? Will points be taken off just by
No.
that? But no.
No, you will not be deducted any points for submitting anything late. Okay. You know,
Okay.
the main thing is you've got to get it in within the late submission time period. But I just
Yeah.
said for you all, I will clarify it. I will send an announcement, but you have at least until spring break. Okay.
Oh
So
my
for
God.
this, yeah.
Okay.
So like, I mean,
That's a lot.
it's weeks, right?
Yeah.
I don't
that's hard.
recommend
No.
though taking all of that time because we got the next paper we're going to start
Yeah.
working on, right? You don't want this
Mhm.
stuff to snowball. But if it helps reduce some of the pressure where you're like, all right, you don't have to freak out if you didn't get everything just the way you wanted it to on Friday. Okay. All right, fine. Take the weekend. Okay. Make it better, right? That's what I want.
Yeah.
Make it better. Okay. And if you're willing to take that time to make it better, I want to reward that, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not trying to prevent you guys from learning. And sometimes super restrictive and inflexible deadlines can prevent that. Okay.
Yeah, and it's more difficult since something is new, like the illustrations of murals is something new to me that I've never done before in the
Yeah.
past with essays. So it's almost like it's more challenging and like I'm trying to put like more time into it.
Good. And
be better.
that's what I
Yeah.
want to hear. I want to hear that you want to do better and that you're practicing those skills. Okay.
Yeah.
I believe that I just posted a voice thread this week that is meant to kind of help you organize your analysis of visual rhetoric a little bit more. It's just basically taking those questions I asked you in the discussion board and putting them all into one sheet, and then we practice applying it. So yeah, right there you can see under the week 6 module, analyzing visuals and checking logic of support. Look at that voice thread if you haven't done so already. And there is that. Now, I believe we used this in the fall, that process for analyzing evidence handout. Okay. Use that handout to keep yourself focused. Okay. You should be fine. You got to take a little more time. That's okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions here before I close out our meeting?
I have a quick question.
I cannot see who is speaking. I'm sorry. Who is that?
Imara,
Hi. Thank you, Mara. Go ahead.
on your, you know how you're saying the essay has to be either point by point or subject by subject.
Uh-huh.
Um, I think I got confused on the subject by subject. I thought subject by subject meant like I was talking about like different aspects of the mural. Is that subject?
No, subject by subject would be looking at all of your points for mural A, right? You finish talking about mural A. Let's say it's a 5-page paper, right? your intro and your conclusion, if we were to combine those, that would be like 1 page. So we're looking at 4 pages of body paragraphs, and that's like 2 pages for each mural. So subject by subject would be like, all right, the first 2 pages of your body paragraphs are going to be about mural A, right? You make all of your points about that. Really, you probably can only make 2 or 3 points in those 2 pages, okay? Then you're done talking about mural A in the paper. You move on to mural B, and you look at the same elements. Like, let's say you were looking at the representation of Aztec culture in mural A and in mural B, right? You would still look at Aztec culture, but it would be with a different mural. And you would look at, how does this mural take up these notions of what does it mean to call upon that indigenous identity, okay? So that's what subject by subject is, okay? The subject is referring to the research subject, your primary source, the mural, okay?
Okay. I definitely appreciate. I would definitely appreciate the feedback here.
Okay, excellent. I will make sure to do that. I've made a note of that too, that I will provide feedback on your rough draft. All right. Any other questions before we finish here?
Yeah, I had a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got Leslie, and was there someone else who also had a question?
Yes, me, Kimberly.
Kimberly, okay, great. All right, so let's go Leslie and then Kimberly.
Sure.
Okay, so if we wanted you to give us feedback for the rough draft, are you gonna be looking at the one we turned in, or can we email you like an updated version of it?
Don't email me. Instead, go back to the same rough draft link and just upload the new one. Okay, I've made those links available so that way you can continue to add new rough drafts to them. Okay.
Okay.
That way I can provide comments just like I've done in the past, where I kind of highlight something and then I type out like a few statements about what could be developed, or even maybe just highlighting something that I thought you did really well. So that would be easier for me to provide you with comments, is if you submitted it to the same rough draft link that you did before. Okay.
Oh.
Leslie, do you know how to do that?
No, I don't. Can you show us? Or show me?
Yeah. So yeah, it's actually just the same process. So you go to the week 5 module, select the rough draft link, and it should give you that option at the very bottom of the page to upload your newest draft. I've already had a few of your classmates do that. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So the big problem would be if it wasn't somehow available for you to add a new one. And if that's the case, then that's when you email me. Okay. If for some reason the rough draft link is not accepting, not allowing you to submit a new one, then email me. Okay.
Okay.
All right, great. Kimberly, what was your question?
Yes, I have a question. For mine, I got confused as well. I think I was doing point by point, but I was actually doing subject by subject.
Sure.
I
I,
was doing,
you guys, I totally understand.
and also I was for my peer review,
Mhm.
I was checking like to see if like someone like make comments of mine, but I don't see any of them.
It is
Like I don't know if
possible.
my I
I'll
don't
look to see if someone did provide comments for you. It is
oh,
also possible that a classmate did not choose to provide comments. Okay.
oh,
So if, but again, like I said, I can't make them do that. But if they don't give you comments and you'd like feedback, I'm happy to give it to you. Do you want me to look at your rough draft?
yeah, that would be great because
Yeah.
I was not sure about the pictures as well, so I did not include them, but I did provide like object like description, but not the picture.
Got it. Okay.
So
But again, while I want you to all put your pictures in there, it is a requirement for the paper, and
okay,
and you do get graded on it. Not for the rough draft, but for the final draft. It is not something that is going. You do it, but don't stress over it. You should be focused more on the introduction and the body paragraphs.
yes,
Okay. All right. So
thank
let's
you.
take a look. Since it is, examples help us clarify things, right? Look at the student examples for the comparative analyses in the week 4 module. I'm going to open up subject by subject right now, so that way you can all get a sense of what it is. And you can study it on your own time a little more, because I'm already over time here. Let's put that there. All right. So this student was writing about gender and Sandra Cisneros's short story collection called Woman Hollering Creek. By the way, great collection of short stories. I've written in a different style than House on Mango Street, by the way, okay? But still excellent work. So the two short stories are Never Marry a Mexican, and the title of the short story collection, it's actually titled after a short story called Woman Hollering Creek, all right? So we have two short stories that this student is comparing, Woman Hollering Creek and Never Marry a Mexican, all right? So I'm seeing right here in their topic sentence claim, they're starting with Woman Hollering Creek, all right? So because this is subject by subject, I'm expecting that at least the first 2 or 3 paragraphs are going to all be about Woman Hollering Creek, okay? So let's take a look. In the short story, Woman Hollering Creek, Cleophilus idolizes the socially constructed view of marriage that is depicted in media. That's an excellent topic sentence claim, by the way. It is debatable, okay? And then they're going to go and they back it up. All right, so let's see if paragraph 2, we can see they don't mention the title of the story again, but we do have the same character, Cleophilus, right? So they are talking about Woman Hollering Creek in their first few paragraphs. Let's see if that continues. It looks like they do it for paragraph 3 as well. It should be noted that in spite of Cleophilus's original stance, she breaks out of this self-sacrificing wife role, okay? Another good example of a topic sentence claim. Now we're on to the second part of the paper. We're on to the second subject, okay? We're done with Woman Hollering Creek. Now we're looking at the story they're comparing it to, Never Marry a Mexican. And you will notice that the next 2 paragraphs, or 3 should be, if they were to keep it parallel, it should be 3 paragraphs. Clemencia is the main character for Never Marry a Mexican. So there's paragraph 1, there's paragraph 2, and moreover, instead of growing from this experience, Clemencia attempts to gain the control she did not have, but she is only left longing after Drew. Okay, the third paragraph does it as well. So that's subject by subject. Everything about Woman Hollering Creek was the first 3 paragraphs. Everything about Never Marry a Mexican was the last 3 paragraphs, okay? All right, I hope that those examples clarify things a little bit more. You have options, study those examples, look at the voice thread, and just do your best, right? Remember, take comfort in knowing if you don't like the grade, okay, we can meet, we'll create a little contract, you redo it, and we'll do better, okay? All right, everyone, I need to stop now. It was great to hear your voices if I didn't see your face at the very least. Great to connect with you all in this way, and I wish you best of luck as you go into the final stages of drafting Essay 1. All right? Good luck with everything, and I'll hopefully talk to you in the not too distant future. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Bye. Have a great day. Thank you
Yes.
for everything. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.